Hi, this is Brian with ActiveMelody.com. In this week's guitar lesson, we're going to take a look at a slow, down and dirty blues that's so much fun to play. And it's actually pretty slow. It's not like super over the top fast, so even if you're fairly new to playing lead, you should be able to follow along with this. It's all played in the key of G, and I'm going to break down everything that I played note for note in the intro. Now, a lot of what we're going to be focusing on is the major pentatonic scale. So when you play blues, it's very instinctive to jump right into that minor pentatonic scale. A lot of us do. I do it. Everybody does that at some point when you're playing blues. But there's some really cool stuff that you can do when you're playing the major pentatonic scale. And so I'm pulling licks from Howlin' Wolf. There's some Elmore James stuff. There's also some Jimmy Vaughn influence in this. And I've got the lesson split into two parts. In this video, we're going to take a look at the first half. If you'd like to watch the second half, as well as download the tablature and the MP3 jam track, which is pretty cool. It's got a horn section and everything. And I've got it in two keys, so you can practice playing it in the key of G, which is the key I did it in, but I've also got the key of A, so you can practice transposing everything that you're learning and playing it in a different key. That way you're really starting to put all of this into practice. You can get all of that at ActiveMelody.com. Just look for EP183. That's a lesson number for this lesson. So let's go ahead and get started with part one. Alright, so let's start this lesson right away with a takeaway. Now, I like to work these into all the lessons that I do. Takeaways are just little nuggets of information that I share throughout the video, and things that you can apply right away to your playing. And usually they're just simple little concepts, but to me that's how I've learned how to play the guitar, is just by picking up little pieces. It's not any big, study in theory or anything. It's just little nuggets, and you put them all together and they become you. That becomes your style. So, as I mentioned in the intro, a lot of what we're going to be learning or playing on is the major pentatonic scale. Now, I'll explain what the major pentatonic scale, if you don't know what that is, I'll explain what that is in a minute. But here's the nugget, here's the takeaway. So, I like to tie everything back to a chord shape. It helps me mentally, it also helps me visually on the guitar. It helps me to be able to visualize where we're at. So if we're playing the G major bar chord, because this song is in the key of G, and the first chord is a G chord, it's our one chord, I would be barring the third fret, and then these three fingers represent an E chord. If you're playing an E chord down in first position, slide it up to here, that's a G major bar chord. Now if I play just the top three strings of that bar chord, it looks like this. That's also a G chord. I'm just playing it up here. So I'm barring the first two strings on the third fret, and then this finger goes down to the fourth fret, third string. Now, when I'm playing these notes, those are three notes out of that major pentatonic scale pattern 2. So you've already got three notes just by playing the chord. We're going to add three more notes. So if I add 5th fret, 2nd string, 5th fret, 1st string, and then the 7th fret, 1st string. Look at that little pattern that you just created. It kind of makes sense when you look at it visually. These are like little box patterns. You're skipping a fret, except for this 4th fret, 3rd string. Everything else is following a very sequential pattern in terms of notes and then skipping a fret. So anyway, if you tie all that back to the chord shape, you can do a lot in terms of improvising with just that. If you don't learn anything else in this lesson, walk away with that. So if I were to improvise a blues in the key of G using just those notes, major pentatonic scale improvisation, it would sound like this. I was tempted to go into some other stuff, but I'm just trying to show you that you could play entire solos, very happy, very positive sounding solos, using the major pentatonic scale. And that's what the major pentatonic scale gives you. It gives you a more happy feel, as opposed to the minor pentatonic scale, which is more sad, more bluesy. So, there's one little takeaway. Just play around with that. Now, included in this lesson for premium members, there's two jam tracks. So there's the one in the key of G. There's also one in the key of A. I would recommend you taking both of those and just trying to do that. I mean, just see what you can do. Noodle around. You don't have to worry about what the chords are. We're not playing against the chord changes necessarily. We're just staying within the key. But do it in A. could do some bends, you could do some slides, but you're just playing off of those notes. Okay, so I mentioned I would just discuss real briefly the major pentatonic scale. If you're confused as to what all this means when I talk about pentatonic scales, I do have a blues lead course which is available at activemelody.com. I've got all 5 patterns of the minor pentatonic scale. But the major pentatonic scale is exactly the same as those minor pentatonic scale patterns. The only difference is you move everything this way 3 frets. It's that simple. So if I were in A, I'm just going to, there's your A minor pentatonic scale, pattern 1, slide everything down 1, 2, 3 frets. There's your A major pentatonic scale. So, and if you don't believe me, just try it. Just put on a jam track or try playing along with a record or whatever. As long as you know the key the song is in, find that root key and then go this way 3 frets. And you're right in that major pentatonic scale, which gives you a more happy feel. So to count this thing in, I went 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So it comes in on the and of 4. And I play those 2 notes. Now these 2 notes that I'm playing are right out of those notes in that pattern that I just showed you. So that's why I wanted to start with that. So this will kind of put it in context and you'll understand where these are coming from. So that first note is on the 3rd fret, 2nd string. And then we go up to the 5th fret, 2nd string. So we go 1, and then it comes in right on the 1 there. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So that downstroke where I'm hitting the 2 strings, that's strings 1 and 2 on the 3rd fret. That's the 1 of the next measure. So okay, now that we got the count in, this is what we're going to learn now. So it's. And so what I'm doing there is I'm hitting strings 1 and 2, then I do an upstroke and hit just string 1, and then we do 1 and 2 again, then I play the 5th fret 2nd string, then we're going to do 1 and 2 again, and then there's an upstroke, 5th fret 1st string. See these notes? They're right out of what I showed you at the beginning. Now the song goes to the 4 chord, we go to the C. And what I did was I did a little walk up here. So this is more of a chromatic scale. So I'm playing that over the C part. So I'm starting that on the 3rd fret 2nd string. We're going to the 4th fret 2nd string. Now some of you are going to say, hey, wait a minute, that note wasn't in what you showed us. And you're right, it isn't. But a lot of times when you have these... well, actually, all times I would say, when you've got 2 notes apart like this, you can play the note in between those as a step in the sequence, and just sort of it's bridging the gap between those 2 notes. So anyway, we come up to the 5th fret 2nd string, and then I played the 3rd fret 1st string twice, back to the 5th fret 2nd string, and then watch this, a very quick little hammer-on between the 3rd fret and the 5th fret. On this 1st string. This is a downstroke with the right hand. So when we look at that, it goes, let's put it all together now from the beginning. We have. Now I slid into that. I didn't mention that, but I played those 2, and then I slid in with my ring finger onto that 5th fret 2nd string. And there's an extra beat there, so you got to really kind of pay attention to your timing. And then we go right back. Now the song is going back to the G chord. So let's go back to the beginning. We'll repeat this. There's your 4 chord. Back to the 1. Repeating. There's your little triplet. And I'm just keeping my bar here on the 3rd fret first 2 strings, doing a hammer onto the 5th fret 2nd string, and then hitting the 3rd fret 1st string with an upstroke. Okay, and now from here what I did was I went. Now that may sound really complicated. And you think, well, how did you even think of that? Well, if you look at what's happening, remember I showed you that note. There's that 7th fret 1st string. What's cool about this note, and I should have mentioned this as we were going through the little takeaway, here's another takeaway, is this note is part of another version of the G chord. So if you've got a G chord here, you've also got a G chord here. Now all I'm doing for this is I'm just look at the shape I'm making. That's the same shape as a D chord down in first position. But I'm playing it here so that my index finger and middle finger are on the 7th fret. So now when you're playing a G chord and you're comping, you're improvising, you've got some different positions to play that G chord just to make it voiced a little different and have a different feel. So I'm mentioning all of that because when I play this, I'm just playing the top 2 strings. I'm not playing all 3 strings of the G chord, just those 2 out of that chord. So this note was one of those that I showed you, and then its harmonized note was right here. So that's the 8th fret 2nd string. But the way that I visualize that and the way that I can improvise in this style is I knew these notes, and I knew that when I come up here I'm connecting to this G chord. So now I could play off any of those notes. So that makes that make a lot more sense, I think. So that's just down, down, up, down, 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 up, down. I'm also sliding into it each time. Now watch this. We're going to walk it down, and that's getting into that G7 chord, because in my ear I can hear, we're about to go to the 4 chord, and the chord that I always think of that, right before you go to that 4 chord is that 7 chord. It's a natural transition to get you to the next chord. So that's what I did. In my head I could hear that 7 chord, and by walking down to here, that note is in your G7. So that's all I'm doing. I'm just going from here down a fret and then down a fret. We're down so that my middle finger is on the 5th fret 1st string, ring fingers on the 6th fret 2nd string. Great little transition. Remember that if you're improvising and you're about to go to a 4 chord, that's one little trick you can use. It's not a trick, it's a technique, I should say. Okay, now we're going to the C chord, and then I went. That we've already done. So that's that little walk up on from 3, 4, 5 on the 2nd string. There's that same little hammer on between the 3rd fret and the 5th string. I'm sorry, the 3rd fret and the 5th fret on the 1st string. And then I went, just to give it a little bit of a punch. That's kind of a Freddie King technique. You hear him do that in a song like Hideaway, his version of Hideaway. But to use that technique, I'm just going back and forth between the 3rd fret and the 5th fret on the 2nd string. I just did one downstroke. It's just a hammer on, pull off, hammer on, pull off. So your finger looks like that. Now some of you may want to use your middle finger if that's easier. So experiment with those 2 fingers. I find it easier to use my ring finger. Now some of you say, well, how long do I hold that? Just feel it out. You go so that your next note, which is the 3rd fret 1st string, is on the next beat. So hold it until you get to that next beat. Okay, now I'm just keeping this bar down. Notice that on the 3rd fret, first 2 strings. So then I come up and play the 3rd fret 1st string. I'm going to hit now the 3rd fret 2nd string, and I'm going to go. And that's going right into those notes that I showed you at the beginning of this. I'm still noodling around in that major pentatonic scale. So from here, we're going to slide up to, we're going to go to the 1st string, and we're going to start on the 5th fret and slide up to the 7th fret. We're going to go down, down, up, down. 5th fret, 3rd fret, and then I played. So that's 5th fret on the 2nd string, 3rd fret on the 2nd string, and then there's the bar there, just naturally bars, and then there's the 1st string on the 3rd fret. So that's how it should sound from a timing. Okay, that's a lot of information. Let's back up now and we'll play everything from the beginning. So here we go. We have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, now we're gonna play this lick. This is really cool. You'll use this a lot. I hope you put this into your arsenal as well. That's really cool. So what I'm doing, now I'm barring the first 3 strings on the 2nd fret, and I'm starting by hammering on to the 4th fret on the 3rd string. That's between this 3rd fret and I'm starting with the bar there on the 3rd fret. There's that, and then we're going to play, now I'm just thinking the G chord here, so I'm just going to play the 2nd string, 1st string, there's that G chord. Now I'm going to go, this is where we're getting off the course of the major pentatonic scale. We're just going to start touching now on the minor pentatonic scale. So that's what this note is. This is the 6th fret 2nd string, 5th fret 2nd string, 3rd fret 2nd string. And then, so I'm keeping this bar the whole time. And then I put my ring finger down on the 5th fret 3rd string, and then play strings 2 and 1. See, they're right behind this bar. So, isn't that cool? I really like that effect. I'm not sure where I got that. Then we do another little hammer on, just like we started the lick, back to the 4th fret there on the 3rd string. And then I went, and that's how I concluded that part. And that's just the first, this is going right in back into that minor pentatonic scale now. So 1st string, 3rd fret, back to the 6th fret, 2nd string. So then I play a triplet that goes, and that's just 5th fret, 3rd fret, 2nd string, 5th fret, 3rd string. And then there's the 3rd fret, 4th string. And I hit that and I push it a little bit sharp there. And then I come down to the 5th fret, 4th string. So let's play through that last little lick there. Now get your timing right on that. That's going to be probably your biggest challenge, more than playing the notes. So notice I held that note out. The second time I came to it, just hold it out. So let's back up on one more time. You can really just start to feel it. It's all in the tab as well. Now we're going to the 5 chord, which is the D chord, and I went. Now this is another little takeaway, lots of the takeaways in this lesson. So when you're playing a blues and you go to the 5 chord, this is a lick that I just instinctively go to because I can see how it plays off of the 1 chord. I always just think of home bass. This is home bass. Everything branches off of this. This is another branch in that tree. And so when we go to the 5 chord, I start here and I'm going to slide up to the 7th fret 2nd string. Let me show you the notes and I'll show you how you can think about the notes. So 7th fret 2nd string, then 5th fret 1st string. So it's a triplet. We're going to go triplet, triplet, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So I'm sliding into that each time with a downstroke and then doing 2 upstrokes. So those are the notes, but look at where those are. So here's one way to think of it. If you play a D chord, you know how to make the A chord shape out of the cage system. When you play the top part of that chord, it would look like that. Well, that's what I'm just sliding into the D chord that way, so that's one way to think about it. But the other way is just to remember how that plays off of the 1 chord. So where these 2 fingers are, this fret here, I know that I can come up to this little extension for the 5 chord, and it's going to work every time. So if you're in the key of A sharp, you've got that lick. You don't have to think about the chord. You just think about these little patterns, these branches off of this tree. So after I hit those twice, I went, it came back down, slid, as soon as I hit the 7th fret 2nd string, it slid to the 5th fret, 3rd fret 2nd string, hit that twice. Okay, and now we're going to do that little trill thing again, just like we did. Same strings between the 3rd fret and the 5th fret on the 2nd string. I hit it twice, 1, 2. Okay, so let's just go play from the D chord up to that point. Now watch this lick. This is really cool. What I'm playing there is remember I showed you that the major pentatonic scale was the same as the minor pentatonic scale. We just moved this way. I'm just going right into, think of it as pattern 1. But I'm playing it in the major pentatonic scale for the key of G. And so that's where all these notes are coming from. I'm starting by sliding, I've got my middle finger on the 2nd fret 3rd string, sliding up to the 4th fret. Our index finger goes down on the 3rd fret 2nd string. And then I play the open 1 string. That's one of the things that's nice about this. You can take advantage of that open string, that open G string, or open E string rather. So if you were doing this in the key of A, for example, you'd play. You're not able to hit that open string like you can. Now I could for this G, I could have played. And that would have been technically right. It's all the right notes, but I like to take advantage of those open strings. That sound is just so cool. Okay, so then we're gonna, after we play that, 3, 2, and 1. Those are your string numbers. I don't know if I showed you this, but that's the 3rd fret 2nd string there. There's your open string. And then we're gonna slide right back down to the 2nd fret on the 3rd string. Open G string, open 3rd string, and then we're going to come to the 2nd fret 4th string and hit that, and then take your finger off so you get your open D note, and then you're going to play the open G, or the open 3rd string. So it goes. Make sure your guitar is in tune. So you just need to learn how to play that in different positions. When you're playing it, anytime you're playing a blues in G and you're doing that major pentatonic scale stuff, you've got that open string. And I know some of you are probably saying, well, how would you even remember that? Well, you'll just remember these little licks over time as you do them. And as you play blues in G, you'll remember what leverage points you have there, and there's some in A and there's some in D and so forth. So there's one other piece to this, and that's the turnaround. And the turnaround's pretty simple. It's one that you've probably heard a lot of times, but I want you to be able to do this now and be able to play this in any key. It's really easy, and just remember where it plays off of the 1 chord. So, to do the turnaround, remember I showed you how to play the G chord here, but I also showed you this little D chord shape, or the D chord shape, but it's the G chord. Well, that's how we're starting this. So instead of making that whole chord, I'm just using strings 3 and 1, and those are both on the 7th fret here. And I'm going to play string 3, 1, 3. That's the pattern. 3, 1, 3, 3, 1, 3, 3, 1, 3. Now I use my ring finger when I'm hitting the 1 string to pluck it. You can either do that or you can pick it. You have whichever is easiest for you. I've seen it done both ways. It's easier for me to pluck it. Then I slide that down 1 fret. And then slide it down another fret. And then we're going to conclude it with that, with a little hammer on there. The hammer-on goes between the 3rd fret and the 4th fret on the 3rd string. And then I hit the 1 string. So let's do that turnaround. Now, apply that to something else. Try it in a G sharp. How would you do it? Where would would it be? Well, you just start doing your math. Okay, where's that chord? Where's the other chord? So it'd be. And you can start to use this like anytime you're in a jam or you're writing your own music or whatever. It's been used a million times. It's kind of predictable, but it's great. I mean, it's just so it's something you should know how to do. And then to conclude that, I went, and that's just a half bend here on the 5th fret 2nd string. So it's not a full bend, it's just a half bend. Bend and release, 3rd fret 2nd string, and then I played the 4th fret 3rd string. I can't remember if actually when I tabbed it if I did the 4th fret 3rd string or the 5th fret 3rd string. Either of those notes would work, by the way. You could do it that way, or you could do it that way. So you have two versions of that you could do. And then I concluded there on the 3rd fret 2nd string, and that becomes the entire first half. Now the second half gets into another whole part where we get into some other stuff which is really cool. All right, let's back up now. Before I conclude, I want to go through this one more time. I'll go through it slowly and give you one final version, and then I'll see you in part 2. So here we go.